everyone. Welcome to episode 159, I think we're on. Is it 159 of the podcast? It is Sunday, July 12th, 2020, and I want to welcome you to this place. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It is cloudy outside. It's cool. It's middle of July, and you'd think it would be hot and sunny, but it was raining all day yesterday and quite cold, and yeah, it was not a very nice day. So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We have a full chat room, and I just want to thank you guys so much for participating and for being here. We've got Alicia and Becca, Sabella. Morning, everybody. We've got Tamar. Oh, I haven't seen you for a while, Tamar. It's good to see you. Kelly and Elizabeth, Dana, Sand, Glenda. Oh my goodness, there's just so many people. Thank you so much for being here, you guys. Our Queries and Explorations group is meeting later this morning at 10:30. So it is almost 8:30 now, so in a couple of hours. And I look forward to seeing you guys later this morning. I'm just looking, everybody's saying good morning. It's good to see everybody. I'm glad you didn't have a nap, Jean, and instead you're here. My favorite hour of the week. Thank you, Jean. That's very kind. Yes, there is a beautiful wheel behind me. It is all put together. The Lendrum Saxony is running. It's beautiful. I thought what we would do, I haven't had really a chance to spin on it at all. I've only spun, I'll show it to you, but I've only spun a little teeny tiny bobbin, about 25 grams of fiber onto it. So I thought what we would do is spend some time with it next week, because I'm just not quite ready to start demoing and stuff on the podcast just yet. So yeah, thank you everyone. Oh, I'm glad you guys are having your coffee. Good. It's so good to see you guys. I really enjoy these streams. So if anybody's having trouble getting into the live chat, if you're watching over on Patreon, there is a link down below that says live chat assistance, and you can follow the steps there. And you can always click the share button in the upper right-hand corner of your screen while you watch on Patreon, and that will take you over to YouTube. So don't hesitate to pop on over there. So we've got our live ongoing yarn substitution content. July's content is sort of just going live as we speak, and August will be sort of a movie of all of the parts all in one for you guys to watch, for those of you who subscribe to that content. And there will also be a downloadable PDF for you, so that you can sort of have some of the like quick stuff for that. So it'll be, some of the different calculations that we've talked about in the content, a couple of things like that. So hopefully that will be helpful for you guys, and that's coming in August. So let's talk about breeding color study, because we have been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And we have been very patient, I think, as a community. We've been very patient for breeding color studies. And we started, when we first started wool and spinning, we started doing breeding color study. I have a hair in my eye, sorry. That's why I keep blinking. So we used to do it sort of October to the end of March, and then April till the end of September. And that was sort of what worked at the time. But Katrina had asked a while ago if we could just shift the dye schedule just a little bit to help her out. So that's what we have done. So we had sort of this gap of 3 months of no breeding color study, and now we're getting up and running again as of July 1st. So on July 15th, mark it on your calendars. The ordering will go live at 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time for patrons of the community. There will be a password that you will need to put in to access the site. So there will be 2 posts on Patreon, one that will be public, that will be for everybody. And if you want to participate, you do not need to be a patron to participate. But if you are not a patron, then ordering will go live at 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And if you're a patron, it will go live at 9 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. But you need to have the password. So that will be in the second post. So in the second post will be the password to access the ordering on Katrina's website, which is craftyjacks.ca. So, oh, thank you, Kelly. You can also click on the title of the video box to open the show on YouTube. Perfect. So let's spoiler some breed and color studies. So this was the photo that Katrina chose. It's Greta's photo, the warmest row, and these are the bats that she has made. So for 6 months of the year we study carded prep, and then for 6 months of the year we study comb top. So this time round we are doing carded prep. So we always do carded through the summer, and you have two choices. You can you can order a bat, or you can order the kit, which is what's showing right now. So that's all of the colors not carded. And then if you want to do the bat, you can order the bat. You can order both. You can order multiples. It's totally up to you. So based on Greta's photo that she showed us, this is what Katrina came up with. I love those colors in the inside and the yellow. I just think they're beautiful. Marjorie had an awesome question. And if you want to know more about the inspiration that went on behind this, I have linked the episode of Woolen Spinning Radio for patrons of the show. That's Katrina talking about this study and how she came up with the colors and what her inspiration was. And as a result, Marjorie had a great question. So the fiber that we're going to be studying is Shawl. And Marjorie asked, thanks for the challenge. Another time when you two talk about breed and color study, Katrina, please talk more about working with this fiber. The Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook, page 236, notes that the staple is short. Is that the case with the fiber sourced for this study? Did that cause any preparation issues or special concerns? Was this fiber sourced in North America, Europe, or ? Any significantly additional prep steps taken to card this fiber? So great questions, Marjorie. Thank you so much. Oh, that's fantastic, Cindy. It's going to be the first one that she participates in. That's wonderful. So this is what Katrina answered to Marjorie, and she didn't have some of the questions that Marjorie asked, Katrina didn't have the answers for, so she answered as best as she could. The fiber sourced for this study was from the UK, and it is about 2 inches long. Most commercially prepared fiber is the same to work with. It is prepared in a long roving, which we weigh off into manageable sized bumps. Then we dye it for the carding, and we lay out those bumps and tie them in 3 places so that they are easier to manage in the pots. The carder we use handles all fibers, so again, I don't do anything different when preparing for carding. So basically, Katrina didn't do anything differently or handle these fibers differently for dyeing or for carding. The Shawl is a short stapled fiber. It's classified as miscellaneous in the Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook, but it is very downy. It's got a real downy feel. To me, it feels like a fine Clun Forest or a fine Suffolk, but it is very, very, very short stapled, and it's shorter than most merinos that are on the market. And actually, I have to say, I've spun the first bobbin of the first quarter of the bat, and I really enjoyed it. I've spun Shawl before, and I really enjoyed it. It always makes a really, really beautiful woolen spun yarn. I really enjoy spinning this fiber woolen because it's so short stapled that you can, run your hand out, and the twist just runs right up, and it takes a bit to make sure that it's twist locked, that it doesn't drift apart when you pull at it. But it makes a really beautiful fiber. Yeah, tons of spring. So Becca's spun Shawl before, and she would agree it feels like down, a definite spring. So, yeah. Oh, Marla, you're so funny. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. So before we move on, I thought that I would show you my initial delving into the breed and color study. I'm just going to give you a little quick teaser. So this was actually the bobbin that I spun on the Lundrum Saxony the other night. So just a little bit of color. I just did a little bit of the pinky antique red and the pink and white, and I'm spinning from the bat. So I was going to do the kit and the bat this year. I was going to spin both, but Due to some extenuating circumstances, I'm only going to be spinning the bat. So this is just the first little bit, first 25 percent of the bat. So just a little bit on the Saxony. I was just playing with it and getting a feel for the uptake and getting it, because I set it up in Scotch tension initially just for ease mostly. And I thought I would just play a little bit of long draw, just kind of see what the fiber feels like, how the wheel spins. There's a little burr on the inside of the flyer where the fiber comes out to feed onto the flyer itself. So I need to get a little bit of Mike's got a metal file downstairs, just a little tiny one for fine work. And I just need to just very gently take that down before I spin on it anymore, because it catches the fiber as it funnels onto the flyer. So just, fine tuning. Other than that, the wheel is running beautifully. Eve asked if you would knit if you could use it for socks. Yes, absolutely. This would be a great fiber for socks. Just make sure that it's really nicely spun and that it's that it's twist locked. That you're putting enough twist in it, because when you've got those really short stapled fibers, sometimes we think that the yarn or the singles is structurally sound. And then we go to work with it and it starts to drift apart, or we go to ply it and it starts to drift apart. And that's just because there isn't enough twist in it. So you don't want to put so much twist in it that it's overspun, but make sure that you're putting enough twist into it. So yeah, thanks, San. And it's exciting to get going with Breed and Color studies again, because we kind of got stalled with it for a bit, just moving the dye schedule around. So it's really exciting as a community to be coming back to it again, especially when 51 yarns for the Group A is sort of starting to wind down a little bit, because Group A is going to be finishing up in December, and that was a 2-year spin. 2-year spin along. And so to be able to sort of now be working on this and finishing up that, it's kind of nice. It brings the community together. I spun it into singles and fold them slightly. It did full pretty well, so don't assume it won't felt if washed. Good point, Becca. I did the same thing actually. Katrina had done Charolais for one of her fiber clubs last year, and I had spun it up into singles because it was a gradient bat and it was beautiful. It was so much fun to spin. And I did fold singles, and it did full quite well. It's not like the downs that can be resistant, or they can be resistant to felting, or they can felt, there's a word I'm looking for. They're not consistent, like they don't felt consistently. So sometimes the downs will felt and it'll surprise you, and then other times they don't felt at all. So they can be quite resistant. But with Charolais, I found my singles fold quite easily. So yeah, definitely don't assume that they won't felt, because they will. Good point, Becca. Thank you. So we had the June episode thread, and I totally forgot last week because of the unboxing. I forgot to announce the winner of Frisian Bat, because I'm continuing to spin my for my shore cardigan, and I forgot to tell you who had won from the June episode thread. So it was Kathy0604. So Kathy, if you could just send me your in post number 6 of the June episode thread. So if you could send me your mailing address, and I'll pop you a Frisian Bat into the mail. So for July, I've linked the episode thread in the show notes, and actually I'll pop it into the live chat as well, so that while we're chatting, you guys can go over there and tell us what your tell us about your most challenging yarn you've ever spun. So tell us for July about your most challenging yarn that you've ever spun. So in our community, we've got our book club going. We've got our Jane Austen read along, and we've got our anti-racism book club. So right now we are studying Persuasion by Jane Austen. It's one of my favorite novels by her. And we're also doing How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. People are also reading, it's by Layla Crusade, Me and White Supremacy. So there are quite a few people that have started reading that as well and working through that workbook. And people, I think she recommends working on it over the course of 28 days, but a lot of people in the community have said that they think that it will take longer than that. We will be discussing dates for the Anti-Racism Book Club, but we will be meeting probably on a Wednesday later this month. And the Jane Austen Book Club meets on Friday, and I think they are meeting this coming Friday, if my memory serves. So look forward to that. Now, in the Ravelry group, in the Slack channel and on the Ravelry group, not just the Slack channel, it's been on the Ravelry group too. We've got Tour de Fleece going right now. So Tour de Fleece has been awesome because it's really brings the community together. And for many of us, it's an opportunity to spin and to share. And of course, Instagram gets flooded with photos and projects and everything, videos and stories of people spinning and working on their stuff for a Tour de Fleece. And it's such an amazing time for the community to come together every year. And there is going to be a second Tour de Fleece. So the Tour de France is running. They're actually having it in August, and I'm not going to be able to find the dates. Somebody had posted it yesterday in the Slack channel, and now I'm not going to be able to find it. So we will be having, it basically means that Tour de Fleece will run a second time this year, which is really, really exciting. And so it'll be running at the end of August through to the middle of September. So Tour de Fleece on the Ravelry group, the official Tour de Fleece Ravelry group has announced that they will have a second Tour de Fleece, which is really awesome. So this Tour de Fleece is running until, I can't remember. When's it running till, you guys? Can't remember. So anyways, I wanted to share some of the projects that people have been sharing. So Painted Needle shared 3 days of spinning progress. Rebby J, she shared her finished Muga and started her peduncle Tassar silk spin, which is for our 51 yarn silk and luxury spins for this month, which is what we're working on for our 51 yarn spin along this month. In July is silk and luxury. And then Kim shares her bats and roll eggs that she's been spinning on her quill, which is fantastic. Beautiful spinning. And Painted Needle, this is her 3 days of spinning progress. And then the Muga and the Tassar are just so that's the Tassar. So Tassar, it has peduncle in it. So Sanjo Silk sells it as peduncle. But it's actually a combination, like the peduncle is carded in and worked in with the Tassar, and it kind of spins up feeling a bit woolly. So we talked about some of those silks on the show a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, I'm glad that Rebecca's really enjoying her silk, because she bought, when she was here in March, she bought a like a taster box, and it had 4 different types of silks in it, and it was the Tassar, the Muga, I think there was Erie in it, and I feel like it was Tussa. She's not in the chat this morning because she's at church, but I think yeah, she had a few different ones to play with. So these are the first 2, which is fantastic. And my Tour de Fleece spinning has been actually going okay. I got an entire bobbin of my Frisian done. So I need to spin a second bobbin. I'm really hoping I can work on that this afternoon and just sit quietly. I feel like I really need some quiet time. So it was a tough day at work yesterday. So for my Tour de Fleece, I'm hoping to get a second bobbin of this done. And that will give me 3 skeins of the Frisian done to date, plus this little mini skein. And I think what I'm going to do is actually figure out the yardage that I have of this so far, so that I can sort of figure out how much more I need. Because I think I probably need a 4th skein, but this will take me up to 3. And of course, this is my knitted swatch. And this fiber is really hard to show on the podcast because it's so dark. But I need to figure out about my gauge and which one was the one that I'm going to go with for the pattern. And then I need to figure out my yardage and what I have thus far, and I can go from there. So I'm really excited about this. This spun up really, really quickly. I can't remember what I was doing that I spun the entire bobbin. I was doing something, and all of a sudden I realized that I had an entire bobbin spun. So I'm excited to have this spin done. And then I think what I will do is whatever bats are remaining, hopefully we'll have a few left to use as prizes for Tour de Fleece, and I'll be able to start knitting. So I'm looking forward to having this cardigan for the fall. I think it'll be a really fast spin because the shore cardigan is mostly stockinette. It's got short rows at the bottom hem to lower the back of the sweater, and then you pick up for the button band and you pick up for the collar and sleeves, and that's it. So pretty straightforward spin. So Tour de Fleece is finished on the 19th of July. Persuasion is this Friday for book club, so that's the 17th. And then we're going to have the first anti-racist discussion on Wednesday, July 22nd. So that's next Wednesday, so 10 days from now. And the next Tour de Fleece will be August 29th through to September 20th. So we'll continue to host a wildcard team. And we will do that. We'll just start up again August 20th. And if we're away, because we're still kind of on the fence about whether or not we're going to be going away or not, we will, I'll make sure that that's all ready to go before we leave. So we have our community-wide make-along, and our make-along is to hold up and to celebrate makers in our community. And so this was an opportunity to sort of do what we do best and come together and get creative. And so for my Made with Love along, and it's all linked down below in the show notes, and you get points if you use Crafty Jack's fiber, and you get an extra point if you used a Kelly G Knits pattern, and so on and so forth. So my Made with Love along project was my Anker's cardigan. So I'm going to move over slightly, and I'll show you my Anker's cardigan. So I'm just going to move the mic a little bit so that I can speak right into it. And you guys will still be able to see this. It was so beautiful and sunny for a little bit, but it's super cloudy and the sun's gone right behind the clouds again. So it's been such a weird summer. We have had nothing but rain and overcast, and it's been quite unpleasant. I'm just going to focus the camera on the on what's behind me. So thank you for your patience. All right. So, oh, hi Kelly. Your grocery order came. That's good though. Now you've got groceries. I made Mike go to the grocery store yesterday while I was at work. Okay, so this is my Odyssey. So we'll talk about this afterward. This thing is huge. Okay, so this is the Anker's cardigan. It is finished. It's blocked. It's washed. It's all the things. I'm quite happy with it. If I were to sort of say how happy I am with this on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say I'm about a 7. And the reason is because I didn't put any shaping in the sides, because when I had tried it on when it was up here, I felt like there was enough positive ease up here that I didn't really need to put in a whole bunch of shaping and whatnot. But it's kind of ended up being that the button band is a little bit because you knit the, let me explain. When you knit the button band at the same time that you knit the sweater, often what happens is the button bands end up being a bit longer and they end up kind of stretching out a little bit, and they end up kind of what I call it flaring, and I really don't like it. And when I started and when I cast on up here, because this is a top-down cardigan, I thought about it and I thought, you know, I shouldn't knit the button band at the same time. I should pick it up and sew it on after. And I didn't, and I should have. And I think at the time I was tired. There was a lot going on in the world. We were sort of in the process of trying to flatten the curve. So we were at home and social distancing and everything was new. And I just, you know, I regret now not doing it after the fact, because it flares quite badly on this. And I think it's because of the yarn being so lightweight. It's a beautiful yarn to work with. It's Katrina's Be Fabulicious in BFL. It's a 100% BFL yarn. And like you can see the back, it's just beautiful. It drapes beautifully. It's got a nice light airiness to it. I'll put it on for you guys in just a minute. And it's just got a really lovely, it's got a slight halo. The yarn is amazing. I can't wax poetic about it enough. But because it's a 2-ply, it does sort of cause this flaring at the bottom of the buttons. And so to button it up is really challenging. And you can see that because I didn't put any increases in through the hips, it's a little bit tight across the hips, which is kind of too bad. But on the other hand, I didn't really want a whole bunch of extra fabric because I probably will wear this ohm pin. I don't wear my cardigans buttoned very often. It's why I knit cardigans so often. I prefer to have them ohm pin. The one thing I will say is how wearable it is. Like, it is just so easy to just pull it on. It's easy peasy lemon squeezy. And it's super, super wearable. There's no short rows at the back neck. And I thought that that would be an issue as well, but it's not. It's actually okay. And I did knit it longer. So this is probably actually how I'll wear it more often than not, is just hanging like this. Because then when you put a shawl over top, oh, I'm boiling in it already. It is so warm. It just makes a great outfit. And it's when you've got a big shawl like this over top, it just, for here and for our climate, it just gets too warm to have a sweater, you know, buttoned and really, really tight against the body. And instead you end up with this great outfit. So I'll back up. So that's probably how I would wear it. But you can see how it flares out a little bit and the button band isn't quite right. But man, I love this outfit. Yeah. So this shawl, this is the Odyssey shawl. Oh, and the sleeves, I didn't follow the pattern. So for the sleeves, I picked them up because they go on hold because of the nature of the top-down style. And so when I got to here and picked up, I worked out how long I wanted the sleeves to be, and I wanted them to be a full 19 inches because my arms are quite long. And so I worked decreases 10 times, and I decreased 20 stitches down to end up with a cuff that wasn't too tight, but was, you know, form fitting. And what's ended up happening is I've got a really nice amount of positive ease in the sleeves so that if I want to wear a long sleeve shirt underneath, I'll be able to. So when you're fitting sleeves, it's a great idea to try them on as you go and to figure it out as you go so that you know sort of what you need for positive ease and what will work for your body. Thanks, you guys. Yeah, very wearable, Dana. Yes. And I think the round neck at the top, I was a little bit concerned about that because I don't wear a lot of really round neck t-shirts and stuff. I wear a lot of v-neck shirts and stuff, but I just thought, you know, it's going to be really usable to just throw on and wear with pretty much anything. And it just sort of sits there and it'll just kind of be, you know, kind of like a shrug, a pullover, something to kind of pull on, kind of hangs at the front nicely. It's interesting because of the 1x1 rib and the increases that are worked through the shawl, through the yoke. I think it's just got a really nice feel to it. It's not the best fitting cardigan that I've ever made by any stretch. It's not the best fitting sweater ever, but I really enjoyed it. it's done. The body knit up really, really quickly. It's super warm, but it's also very lightweight. So it's going to be really wearable for here. And I can put it on. This is like the cincher. I can wear it under my rain jacket. It's not too thick or too big. So like gold. It's perfect. So, all right. So the shawl, no, I'm not keeping the shawl. It is going to go to my sister-in-law. So this is my Odyssey. This is a free pattern by Locatelli, and it's a great pattern. If you guys haven't seen this pattern, it's a wonderful pattern. I'll just link it in the live chat for you guys because it is free, and it's easily modifiable. So let's talk about that for just a minute. It is very Vancouver, isn't it, Kelly? So this shawl was originally my Gotland Romney fleece that I was processing that was going to become the Gentle Morning. And the reason why I pivoted and ripped that out is because the yarn was, I had made a 3-ply. I love the yarn. It turned out really, really well. And I'm actually going to put it on my dress form so I can speak to it because it's hard to speak to it when it's on me. So, so it was a 3-ply, and the yarn was, it's quite dense. So that Gotland in the yarn, even though I had kept it low twist, even though I had kept it really like not overspun, it was a perfect sort of medium twist, medium yarn. It was really hurting my wrist to purl. And a lot of it is because my right hand, just the way that I knit and the way that I hold my hand, if the yarn is over a certain knitting weight, which is around a heavy DK light worsted, my hand starts to really hurt when I'm on purl rows. So when I work with yarns that are a little bit heavier, like a heavy DK light worsted, I tend to do garter stitch, or I tend to knit in the round, and then I can knit the whole time. And that works really, really, really well. So that's actually how I got through the Simple Something, because that pullover was in the round. It was all stockinette, and I didn't have to do any purling whatsoever. And so it worked really well for my right hand. So when I started knitting the Gentle Morning, that sweater is knit back and forth, and there's purling, there's a purl round every other row because you're knitting back. And it really was bugging my wrist. And I there was no way I could have knit the whole sweater in that yarn. But I had this great yarn. So I also didn't have enough yardage for the sweater. I was sort of in the midst of spinning more for the sweater. And so I decided in the end to look at the yardage that I had and just to play around with my dye pots and use it as an opportunity to just play. So that's what I did. So the bottom color down here is Kibraka, just almost exhausted. So the dye pot was almost exhausted. This is Kibraka, but in the middle, and with a little bit of cochineal added, and then this is cochineal and Kibraka. And basically what I did was sort of a gradient dye. I'm not a dyer. This is not my forte. This is not something that I particularly enjoy doing. I just once in a while play a little bit. So basically what I did was I followed the formula that's in the Modern Natural Dyer. And I started off by adding the skein to this dye pot, to the dye pot that was this one. It took most of the dye. And then the idea was this was supposed to be a little bit lighter and a little bit lighter. This one ended up being quite light. And I think it ended up actually turning out quite nicely. In the middle of the pattern, there's this really cool make whole and these increases that you get to work, and then these decreases, and it creates this whole lace pattern. And I did block this quite aggressively. So that's why these stitches are kind of pulled out. This isn't supposed to be pulled out quite so much, but it'll relax in time. And I think it actually kind of adds to the design a little bit, which is kind of fun. But basically what I did was I knit until I sort of felt that I had about a third of the yarn left. And then I worked the lace chart, and then I, finished that off regardless of how much yarn I had left. Then I worked the next color till I had about a third of the yarn left, worked the next chart, and then so on. So then when I got to the bottom, this was the one that was the hardest. I had the most yarn of this color, so I was able to knit a little bit further, which makes the shawl kind of work, if you will, in terms of symmetry and just your eye. But to the pattern says basically that after you finish this final row that you just cast off right away, and I wouldn't have had enough to cast off in this color, so I ended up using this color, knit a row, and then I cast off, and I think it actually worked out really well. Now in the pattern it's a picot bind off. There's no way I would have had enough yarn of any of the colors to do a picot, so I ended up doing just a stretchy bind off where you knit one stitch, knit one stitch, pass the 2 stitches, and then you knit through the back loop of the 2 stitches. So it's a really great bind off that was on Evelyn Clark used it quite a few times, and it was made popular on her swallowtail shawl. Oh, thank you, Pia. she hasn't watched for a while, lots to catch up on, but she hadn't seen my hair. So thank you, Pia. So the shawl in the end ended up being massive. It's my half of the shawl is half of my wingspan. So that's just half of the shawl, and it's a crescent shape. And these aren't colors that I particularly wear, and but I mean I can wear them. I just they're not colors I tend to default to. But I was thinking about giving this to my sister-in-law because they've had such a challenging year. And while I was knitting this, I was thinking about her, and so I'm going to pop this in the mail this week and send that off to her. So I'll get some photos of it, get Mike to photograph it for me, and then I'll pop it in the mail to her. They just live in Victoria. I could wait until I see her next time, but I thought it'd be kind of fun because we'll see them on the August long weekend. But I actually kind of thought it'd be fun to send it in the mail and have her receive it basically as like a surprise. Like she's not expecting it. She doesn't know it's coming. She has no idea that I was doing this for her. I just thought it'd be kind of fun she goes to the mailbox and there it is, you know? So that's the plan with this. So does anybody have any questions about the Anker's cardigan or about the Odyssey shawl? Because then we'll move over to the other camera and I will chat a little bit about my Vellicor. Although actually I should show it to you on here. It's very similar to Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off, but there's no yarn overs. But it's very similar, yes. So I'm going to move this shawl out of the way. I was going to switch cameras for this, but I actually can put it on my dress form because I separated for the sleeves and put needles through. So I thought we could actually just put it on my dress form. And then you can really see. So I have finished the body. This is an Andrea Mowry pattern. And I'm just starting to work, up the back here. So it's very boxy. It's got a lot of positive ease, as you can see. I'm really torn about this project. It's really beautiful. It's made a really beautiful piece of fabric. But it's really, really, there's a lot of positive ease in this. Like I'm worried that I won't wear it a ton, but it is really quite beautiful. And we can go over to the other camera and I can show you in detail the fabric. So basically I'm working up the back now. And you do 5 inches up the back with some 1x1 rib. And then it has a boat neck at the top, which I think would be really, really pretty. Yeah, it's a gorgeous sweater. The problem is because of all the slip stitches and the mosaic knitting and whatnot, there's not really any drape. So, you know, even though I have gauge and stuff, there's not really any drape. It just kind of hangs, and I worry about that for wearability. I did modify it on the sides by doing a split hem. So I worked the back and then I worked the front and then I attached and worked up. And so I'm hoping that that'll kind of increase the wearability a little bit just in terms of being able to tuck the front into a pair of jeans or something. But there is a lot of positive ease in this. And Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's really cute on people on Ravelry. Like when you scroll through and you look at people's projects and stuff, it's really cute. And it really, on people, it looks great of all shapes and sizes, heights, and that was sort of endearing to me because I always think like the testimony of a really great pattern is something that looks really good on most people and most body shapes and types. I'm reserving judgment. So sometimes this is what happens in projects. You know, you get halfway through and you think, oh, I don't know. And you kind of have to trust the process. And then, you know, sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. The problem with a project like this is there's so much knitting. It's a very knitting, laborious project. And so, you know, to then get to the end and sort of feel like it's not really what you like or what you're going to wear is a little bit concerning. However, I do think that it might actually be a really good sweater to wear, you know, on those cool mornings when me and the kids are going for a walk or we're going out. And you don't want sleeves, but you want something to keep you a bit warmer. So I sort of am happy. I'm happy to kind of see the process through and just to kind of reserve judgment, if you will, just to kind of see. Because it is recommended to be worn with about 10 inches of positive ease. And it looks great on everybody who's knit it. So I'm happy to kind of see it through. So I'll move over to the other camera and then you can really see the fabric. I just have ended up all wrapped around my dress form. Not cool. And I have to take my sweater off because now I'm boiling. It gets really warm in here in the office with the computer on and all the lights and everything when I'm podcasting. So often I would be wearing a sweater outside if I was outside, but because I'm podcasting, I'm like in a t-shirt or a tank top. So yeah, that's a good point actually, Eve. I probably would layer it actually because you're right. It would be a really great sweater to have as a layering piece. This is part of the creative process too, you know, not everything is going to work out and not everything that we make is going to be perfect. And, you know, I often think that we have all these really high expectations for ourselves around our projects and we want everything to be perfect. And it's not that stuff doesn't work out or that stuff isn't great. It's just that sometimes it's not what we thought that it would be. So I wanted to show you these little mini skeins that I did. These are from Kingdom Fleece and Fibreworks. And there's the bluey green bit of roving that she sent me to play with. And then there's this colorway. I just spun these long draw. They were quick little projects that I really enjoyed doing them this week. And I have left to play with this from Liz. A little bit of this. And then this really big pinky purple that I get to play with. So I'm going to work on those over the next week or so. She had just wanted to see some of this stuff spun up. And what it might look like and from the mill because Liz runs Kingdom Fleece and Fibreworks and she had asked me to play around with some of the fiber just to see sort of how it spun up and to share my reflections and my thoughts, and it's really spinning up beautifully, so I'm really enjoying that. The greeny one, this one kept catching quite badly. I just couldn't get it to spin really super smoothly. And I was so tired when I was doing it. And you know, when you sit down at your wheel and you just think like, what am I doing? You just can't get anything to run properly. And that was definitely the case. So a little bit challenging. So this is the Pasuta, which is the contrast color for my Vellicor. And then this is the Ocean colorway in Tough and Tender. Which is a 100%, no, sorry. It's a Targi nylon blend that Katrina does for her socks. And then this is Targi bamboo silk. And I did this as a 3-ply fractal. So my goal for this project was to be able to see the movement of the fractal through the fabric. And I think that's actually happened. I think that's actually the case. So you can see how it started off with the solid brown and it worked all the way through to the solid blue where all of the colors matched up, and then back through to the brown and so on all the way up to the blue again. So the colorway was dyed brown, a different color brown, light blue, and then a darker blue, and then back through to the brown again. So you can see the movement of the fractal through the fabric, which is really fantastic. And that was what I was hoping. So you can see the remainder of the skein. Sorry, the light kind of is blowing out the camera a little bit, but you can see sort of that there's that subtle striping in there as you move through the skein. I think if I were to knit this pattern again, I would maybe just knit it a little bit smaller. I would maybe just do a bigger gauge swatch than I did and cast on a fewer number of stitches just so that it was, because I'm worried that my yardage isn't going to go really super far. I'm a bit concerned that I'm going to run out of the pasuta. So if by some crazy happening over the next week or so, because you guys know what I'm like, this does happen sometimes. If I rip this out and start again, I think what I'll do is take as accurate as I can a gauge swatch of this and cast it on again to be a little bit more close fitting, which would mean I would have the yardage to make the body a bit longer. And because you're spending so much time making this stuff and spending so much time on the needles and working on this, and there's no deadline for this, like I don't have to have it done by X date at X time by any stretch. So I kind of thought, I'm going to think about it some more, but I was thinking that I may start again. It's a lot of knitting. It's a number of weeks and months of knitting, but to not be really super happy with the results, I think would be worse because it'll just end up in my drawer and I won't use it. So yeah, it's a good angle to see it. I think you guys can really see the fractal and how it's knitting up. So yeah. Every time I hear Vellicor, it makes me think of the Japanese Ultimate Fighting League. That's funny, Kelly. I wonder if that's where Andrea got the inspiration for it. Makes me wonder. Sorry, I just kicked the camera. That's so funny. I think of Skeletor from He-Man. Yeah, it's so funny, some of these names, hey, that we hear about from our, some of these pattern names. They're so creative. I'll show you a close-up, too, of the Lendrum bobbin. So that's the Lendrum Saxony bobbin there. Pretty cool. So because it runs double drive, you've got the smaller whirl at the front of the bobbin for when you run it in double drive, and then you've got the bigger one at the back, the bigger whirl at the back for when you run it in Scotch tension. And I am running it in Scotch tension right now only because I was just playing and I thought that I would just play with the ratio, play with double drive over the course of this week, and hopefully I'll get a chance to sit down and play with it. So that's that project. And actually, I don't really have anything else to share with you guys today. We kind of blasted through the show really quickly, but sometimes that's really nice because then, we share sort of what we have to share and talk about what we have to talk about, and that's really special. Thank you for your kind comments about the Vellicor. I'm still not really sure what to do with it. It's just so much. This is the inside. Isn't the inside incredible? It's just so much knitting to not have it fit exactly how I want. So yeah, I use people and place names because I'm completely uncreative with naming things. You know what? It's so funny. It's so funny, Kelly, because I do the same thing. So when I think of when I'm trying to think of names for patterns or when I'm trying to think of names of stuff, I either call it what it is, like breed and color studies, or I think of a place that I associate with that thing. So I'm totally the same way. So please watch for the links coming up later today for Breed and Color Study. There will be 2 posts for patrons and 1 post for everyone else. The show will be going live for everybody later today, so there won't be a Tuesday release date because of Breed and Color Studies going live on Wednesday. Because the 15th is on Wednesday, right, guys? Yes. So Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time and 10 a.m. for everybody else. So 9 a.m. for patrons of the show and then 10 a.m. for everybody else. And I hope you guys really enjoy this round of Breed and Color Study. It'll be really fun to see what you guys do and what you decide to play with and how you decide to spin your bats and your kits and whatnot. I'm really excited to see. So I'm not emotionally mature enough to be able to rip out all that knitting. Oh, Jean, you're funny. You know what? It doesn't bother me. It used to really bother me when I was first starting out. But now if I'm not going to wear it and it's just going to sit in my drawer, but I'm not going to be able to gift it because I am too attached to it, I pull it out. And I probably should have pulled it out back when I was like here, but I didn't. So now I have to figure out what I'm going to do. So I might put it aside for a couple of weeks and think about it because I can't wear it in the summer anyways. It's way too warm. So maybe it'll be a project that I take with us in August if we end up being able to do our road trip, and maybe, you know, knitting on it in the truck for all those miles up to Prince George. Maybe maybe it won't feel so bittersweet. We'll see. I'll let you guys know. Maybe I'll pull it out and knit something completely different. I don't know. We'll see. I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful week. I hope you guys are making lots and enjoying everything. Block the snot out of it to try and get more drape. I had thought about that, Eve. The problem is the yarn is so, it has so much memory, and based on my stone crop, because that is so bouncy and has so much memory, and it was really hard to stretch and make longer. This is going to end up being the same, because even as I play with it here, I pull it and it just, like, it's got that real elasticity. So why not, you know, just highlight that and play with that and use that rather than trying to override it. So yeah. Yeah, isn't it true, Debbie? Her husband's always horrified when she frogs a big project and then she tells him it is the beauty of the yarn. Absolutely. So if you have a chance to try some ready-to-wear tops, you might be able to decide. Actually, Kelly, that's part of the reason why I am leaning towards ripping it, is because I don't wear stuff like this very often. And if I do, it's because I like it to be a little bit longer and a little bit slimmer. So I just don't like having a lot of extra fabric on me. That's what it is. So we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I wouldn't use it, Jennifer. That's a great idea. Close the end and turn it into a purse. I just wouldn't use it. So if I rip stuff out, I restart right away with changes, and that softens the blow. I agree, Tamara. I'm the same way. If I can rip it out and restart it right away, it's not quite so painful. Absolutely. Yeah. All right, guys, let's say goodbye. I will see you next week, same time, same place. Thank you so much for joining me this week. We did have a wool stream on Friday. YouTube took the video down and they have reinstated it. So if you missed the wool stream and you're part of those support tiers, please go back and make sure you catch up, because they did let me reinstate it and it is available for viewing now if you missed it on Friday. So until next time, happy spinning, happy knitting, and happy dreaming. I will see you guys next week. Have a wonderful week. Bye, guys.